What is the most embarrassing thing someone has done? Who was interested in you romantically? A girl I knew in middle school stabbed 2 people with a pencil for talking about me behind my back. She was upset when I didn't thank her. Well, she kinda had a point. I mean, if someone stabs someone in your honor, etiquette requires a thank you, even if it is just to stop yourself from getting stabbed. I was her first kiss. She was standing 5 feet away from me. She puckered her lips like a duck, closed her eyes and blindly walked 5 feet to kiss me. I could have met her halfway. I didn't. I've posted this story before, but here it is. When I was 13, a girl had a crush on me. Did I find out because she told me, or because of a friend? Nope. I found out because she made a PowerPoint slideshow about us dating, marrying, and growing old together. The first slide was about how we met in her imagination, and went on to show stock photos of couples. There was a slide of us on our first date, one of us getting married, one of us having kids together. This was a full-on slideshow with pictures and cheesy word art. I don't remember how long it was, but I think about 10 slides. I clearly recall the last slide being an old couple and it said something about us growing old together and bring in love the rest of our lives. As you can imagine, I was not the first to see it. Many other people had seen it and it had been circulating for a few days before a couple of my friends pulled me into a classroom and showed me one day, laughing the entire time like good friends do. From then on, any time I was around her it was awkward. I didn't have feelings for her before the PowerPoint, and afterwards was creeped out and had a bit of an aversion to her. This is probably the thing that keeps her up at night and still makes her cringe many years later. There was a girl I used to know who always wanted to start a webcam chat. I didn't have a webcam, so she would just video call me so I could watch hers, except she wasn't really doing anything. It was just a stream of part of her face as she typed. Also, she'd get really offended if she video called me and I didn't accept, so I would usually just accept, minimize the window, and go on with whatever I was doing. Oh man. I wish I'd gotten to this thread earlier. So when I was like 14, I used to hang out with this guy in my hometown who was really into anime, specifically Bleach. All he wanted to do was talk about Bleach, online roleplaying the Bleach universe, etc. And he wanted me to participate. For some reason I put up with this even though I had no idea what Bleach even was. So I guess because I was female and paying attention to him and we were 14, he developed a crush on me. Here's how he decided to tell me. We are chatting on AOL Instant Messenger one night when he suddenly confides in me that he has an alternate personality. It is an evil personality that wants to destroy all humanity. It is probably directly inspired by something from an anime. I ask if I can talk to this alternate personality. He agrees to let him out, and then starts typing incomplete sentences with capitalization and punctuation to indicate that the alternate personality is really sinister and smart, but apparently not smart enough to realize it could go kill some humans instead of chatting with a middle schooler on AIM. The alternate personality informs that it really wants to kill me, because I am a human and it wants to kill all humans. In fact, it would have already killed me if my friend hadn't stopped it through sheer force of will. My hero of a friend had been bravely holding it in check all this time. You're lucky he likes you, the evil personality tells me. I ask to talk to my friend again, and he drops the act with plenty of dramatics about how traumatic it was to let the evil personality out. After a minute or two, when it's apparent that I'm not going to acknowledge his pseudo confession, my middle school butt was naively hoping he just meant like as a friend. He doubles down. I can't believe he told you. I didn't want you to find out this way. So yeah, instead of just telling me he liked me, this dude made up a fake evil split personality to confess on his behalf in between threats to my life. It is, to this day, the cringiest thing I have ever directly witnessed. But I can't really judge, because I was also 14 and I was just as terrible in my own special way, weren't we all? When I was 13 I broke up with a guy for pretending to be a werewolf. Middle school was awful. A girl kept some of my hair in a box with photographs and illustrations of me about 2 weeks into our relationship. My horror must have been embarrassing for her. That was also the final week of our relationship. Joke's on you. Now she can do voodoo on you. In high school, a friend of a friend made me a Build-A-Bear that said, "My name, I love you, will you go out with me?" and presented it in front of our mutual friend groups. I was so shocked that I couldn't find the words to reply, so after a solid minute of stunned silence he trashed the bear, fled the school, and didn't come back that day. Still feel bad about it 10 years later. Oh geez. I was dating this guy for 6 months when I was 18. He was 29. I mention this because I kind of feel like he should have been the responsible one. Anyway, things start to inevitably go south because I'm much younger, and I'm not on the same page as him. He wanted us to get a flat together and live together and get dogs, and I just wasn't into it at that point in my life. I just wanted to go out and have fun together. He started worrying me when he hinted that he was going to surprise me with a pair of puppies, and what names would I like to call them, because how cute would it be if they had little collars on with names I'd picked out for my dream dogs. I should have ended it there, but like I said, 18. Read stupid. Ostrich level stupid. A few weeks later, he took me out to dinner and said he had a surprise for me. When I asked him what it was, he unbuttoned his shirt a few buttons, slipped it off his shoulders and turned around to reveal a huge tattoo sprawling across his upper back of my name. It was literally shoulder to shoulder. My name is quite unusual and is 9 letters long. The dot on the I in the middle of my name was a star on the back of his neck. It was that big. Additionally, it was red at the top, fading to skin color, then through to blue at the bottom. An ombre of disappointment. I don't think I can accurately put across what a freaking monstrosity this thing was. I was totally gobsmacked. And honestly, I felt skeeved out. It sort of felt like a violation and I can't describe how or why. It just did. Needless to say, I broke up with him the next day. For all I know, he's still walking about with that thing on his back, because it would be literally impossible to cover up. An ombre of disappointment killed me dead. I broke up with a girl in year 7 at school after a 4-day relationship, and she proceeded to tell the teacher and get them to tell me off for breaking up with her. They pulled me to one side and said, "I can see why you don't want to be with her. LOL. Go teacher." She stalked me for several months in school. I was walking to school one morning and got a text from her saying, "You look really good in that shirt." I looked around and couldn't find her anywhere. I replied, "Where are you?" Her, "Don't worry about it." I can almost relate. Had a girlfriend in middle school who would say cryptic crap and then respond with "don't worry about it" when questioned. Confess their interest in me in front of a crowd of people. I was embarrassed and not interested in them, but many people got angry at me for shutting her down. My first serious boyfriend and I decided to lose our virginities to each other. He had this thing: if he got extremely nervous or anxious, he'd throw up. Well, things start heating up, and the first time he puts it in, all he said was, "Oh my god, it's tight and warm, cue the fried doors," and milk all over my face, hair, and chest. Unfortunately for me, he had just come back from a football game with a fine menu. No. Back in high school, I was partnered with this guy for a physics project. Really great guy. Enjoyed his company a lot but wasn't interested in him romantically, and he knew that. We had to build a bridge out of some very lightweight wood that we had designed to be able to hold a certain amount or weight or something. Can't quite remember the specifics of the project. And at the end we decided to cure the glue we'd used. He said he had it covered, so I stayed in the other room texting or something while he put it in the oven. 20 minutes later the kitchen was smoking. Turns out he had put the bridge in with some chicken nuggets he was making us as a snack so I would stay longer and just hang out. But he completely forgot about the bridge. The wood eventually caught on fire and we had to start the project from scratch. He was mortified. Best chicken nuggets I've ever had, though. TLDR. Try wood smoked chicken nuggets. They're delicious. I was dating this girl for like 1 month. We had a conversation about much we loved The Lion King. It was playing in theaters at the time. Disney re-released it in 3D. This is like 3 years ago. So we went to see it and had a great time. After the movie we bonded in our love for the character Scar. The next weekend we made plans to hang out again. We were sitting in my basement and she told me she had a surprise for me. She sat on my lap with her back facing me and told me to lift up her shirt. I did, only to find that she went and got a fairly large tattoo of Scar from The Lion King. It was hideous. I was very freaked out. I knew it would make it harder to break up with her. One time a guy was trying to be cute and zip up my coat for me. He started to raise the zipper, but it got stuck near my cleavage, so he pulled with force. Unfortunately, his hand slipped off the zipper and he gave me an uppercut instead. A different guy took me out for our first date to a hiking trail because he was working on a photography project. I followed him around and had a lot of fun. He ended up jumping over this little creek to get a picture of a tree hanging over a river. I knew I couldn't make the jump without falling in, so I let my shoes get wet instead. He began teasing me about it as he stood on the log of the tree over the water. He gets what I assume was a great picture and then turns around to step back onto the bank. He ends up slipping into the water up to his knees. When he steps forward, he must have stepped into a hole under the water, because now he is up to his chest in the water. Luckily, this was before everyone had cell phones, and he kept his nice camera above his head, so only his clothes were soaked. I almost peed my pants laughing. His hand slipped off the zipper and he gave me an uppercut instead. Shuriken. I went out with a guy who had terribly horrible gas. It started at the bar and pretty much didn't stop all night. I'm not unreasonable. We'd gone out before and it wasn't an issue. But the next time we hung out I went to his place. It was a freaking sty, and he was grilling pork on a grill, and persistently wanting to consider it done because it was browned on the outside. I kept cutting the insides open, where the meat was still raw, explaining pork isn't one of those meats you can eat half cooked. Probably explained why his freaking intestines hated him so much. And yet, he was gassy that day too. Sorry, I tried. Probably explained why his freaking intestines hated him so much. Dang, you're probably spot on there. That or he just ate too much meat generally. Also, the thought of rare or medium rare pork makes me feel sick. This is longish, so hang on. I was recently in a relationship with a guy who lived 2 hours away. I ended up ending the relationship, and all heck broke loose. Endless calls, texts, screaming, name calling. He really was letting me have it. I politely told him that I was sorry, but my decision had been made and to please leave me alone. I never received any message back, so I thought okay, maybe he's finally going to leave me alone now. Fast forward to about 5 hours after I sent the last message to him. I was sitting in my bedroom in my apartment when all of a sudden I heard music playing pretty loud. For a split second, I thought it was my upstairs neighbors, as they have a history for playing music pretty loud at times. Then, I realized it's coming from outside. I almost knew at this point what I was gonna see when I looked out the window. Have you ever seen the movie Say Anything, where John Cusack is holding up the boombox? Well, I opened my window to find my ex standing there with an amplifier hooked up to a random extension cord. He's struggling to hold it, as it's a large amplifier. I didn't know whether I should go outside or call the cops. I chose the former. Once I got out there, he proceeds to get down on one knee and propose to me. While this is all going on, there are people walking by observing this crap show. Basically, I made him leave my apartment, but damn it if it wasn't embarrassing. TLDR, don't copy 80s movies. You will not get the girl. I dated the most egocentric dude in all of New York. His dad is a famous musician, so he's lived a life of yes men surrounding him and whatever toys he'd like. This has resulted in him believing without a shadow of a doubt that he is super talented at everything. Spoiler, he's not. He knew I wasn't interested in him. I told him gently at first, then firmly, then flat out. I'm hanging out with my friends one night and he FaceTimes me. He had somehow clipped his phone onto his guitar really close to his face and was live streaming his band practice at me singing directly into the guitar camera. It was a really bad angle, the music sounded terrible, his expression was just so into himself, and I ended up ending the call after my friends got a good laugh because I felt such intense second-hand embarrassment. I am so intrigued as to who it is, but oh god, so much cringe. In the 9th grade, a guy who liked me wrote a note on a piece of paper and turned it into a paper airplane, which he then proceeded to throw at my head. It hit me in the eye. I had to go to the school nurse and wear an eye patch for part of the day. The answer was no. Did you have to circle it or did he have to just assume? Second date. I went on a hike with a girl from work who was very into me, brought her a cup of coffee when I picked her up and brought Subway sandwiches for lunch at the hiking destination. She had to pee a couple times while we were up there, which I didn't find weird at the time. Then she finally tells me I had taco time last night and a coffee this morning before the coffee you got me, and my insides are churning and I really have to go but I don't know what to do. So I said hang on, I'll ask someone for some TP, and I found some backpackers that graciously gave me a roll. She ran off in the woods and did her business while I watched her dog. Comes back and says oh my god, I've never been so embarrassed in my entire life. To which I responded, hey, crap happens. We are still together now 2 years later. Honesty is always the best policy. It's attractive. If it were me, I'd have just crapped my pants. He stopped me at an underground passage in a train station, asked for charity and then said JK, I have been watching you for days and I just wanted to ask you out, and this seemed like the right way to get your attention. We didn't go out. I had a girl let out a nervous fart the first time we showered together. She was extremely embarrassed and I was laughing my butt off. Married her. Freaky. When I first met my wife she walked over to me, said hi and started to sit down next to me. Farted, laughed, got up and walked away. Later I tracked her down and introduced myself and apologized if I smelled like toot because of this crazy girl earlier. Bought a motorbike to impress me. I was dating a biker at the time and I guess he thought it was the key to getting in my pants. Needless to say it didn't work. He spent a ton of money on something he had no interest in. Brace yourself, this is a bit overwhelming. First date. It was one of the first weeks of my freshman year in college. A cute guy I regularly made small talk with from my intro psychology class asked me to go grab coffee. I thought, well, what can the harm in coffee be, and agreed. On the coffee date, the typical first date introduction talk happened, and everything seemed fine. It got closer to dinner, so he asked to grab a bite. I figured, well, I do love sushi so I agreed. Then, at dinner, he whipped out 2 tickets to a play in his pocket, and goes oh, I just happen to have these. Would you like to go? Me, being awkward and non-confrontational, hesitantly agreed. So, we drive to the playhouse. Once we arrive, his whole entire family is there. I'm not talking immediate, I'm talking like cousins and aunts and grandmas. I went around and met all of these strangers, who kept making comments like it's so nice to meet you and wow you're adorable. Keep in mind, I've known this guy for a week and this was the first date. I want to hightail it, but he drove to the playhouse, so I sit through the play. After, his family offers to have a late night snack at their house, and since I'm stuck, I can't say no. So, I awkwardly bake treats with his entire family, and to top it all off, a huge snowstorm hits while I'm at his home late at night, making it impossible to leave. So, his mom made me a bed and I spent the night. Needless to say, I didn't call him back. TLDR. Went on first date. It kept getting upped from coffee to sushi to a plate to meeting his entire extended family. I'm too non-confrontational to leave. Then, to top it all off, I got snowed in his house with his family. You went through a whole relationship in a day and a half. The first time my GF farted in front of me was hilarious. She was working to get her shoe on and let out this little toot. I kinda pretended to not hear, until she whipped her head around to see if I had. I lost it. Now we just fart around each other whenever. No shame. Okay, so, second year of high school and this happens. There was this girl that was rumored to have a huge crush on someone from the class, but only her best friend knew and she had a killer poker face. We take turns guessing and she is red at any time this is mentioned. The craze passes, she does not say anything and we let it go. At this point, I should say that the girl in question had very religious parents and family in general, with an over-the-top strict father. Fast forward a couple of weeks, I get handed a note from my best friend. We were sitting together, but teacher notices it. He asks me to hand it over, and proceeds to read it. It was basically a love confession from her to me. She blushes to the point of exploding, but stands up and welcomes any mocking that her crush entails to be offered now. As she was quite shy, this caused a big wow among the class, teacher included. We dated for 4 years then, and another 2 after a 1-year break, during senior year of HS. We were each other's first at almost anything relationship related. Still in touch once in a while. PS. I was the reason she met her husband and she was the reason I got out of deep depression. Great gal. Hey teacher, leave them kids alone. I've been head over heels for my best friend for almost 4 years now. We were carpooling somewhere during my sophomore year of high school, and there were no open seats left in the car, so he jokingly offered me a seat on his lap. I took up the offer, and a few minutes down the road I felt a strange, stiff poke near my lower half. When we got out of the car later, he couldn't look at me for 3 hours and had his sweatshirt tugged way far down over his pants. He led me on for a good 6 months before flatly denying he ever liked me when I asked him about it. Still sends me mixed signals to this day. Sigh. TL. DR. Sat on my best friend's lap during a carpool. He got a boner. I had to sit on it for the full 10-minute drive. Well, that's some balls. I have a couple. Messaged me repeatedly on every social media site possible and continued even when I'd open them and not answer. Then tagged me in a meme that said keep calm and love white girls. Asked to hang out with me repeatedly. I politely declined each time. After the 4th time he offered to clean my house and cook for me while I napped just so he could be in the same vicinity as me. Went on a date with a guy on 4th of July once. The date went really well, and I let him come back to my apartment after. We were making out, but I was on my period, so kept stopping him trying to go any further, and eventually just flat out told him I was on my period. He said he didn't care because I was so hot and proceeded to rip my tampon out of my vagina. I asked him to leave after that. I was leaving class with this guy that was interested in me, and I guess he decided he wanted to impress me. We were chatting a bit. Then we get to the stairs and he stops mid-conversation and just leaps down the full flight. He looked so pleased with himself at the bottom and just beamed up at me. It was a little bit weird, but I'm proud of him. I'm glad you were proud of him, but that part made me actually laugh out loud. Oh boy, mine's a doozy. So in high school, there was this kid that, at the risk of being rude, literally no one liked. Let's call him Tim. I had heard horror stories about Tim and thought he can't possibly be that bad. I was wrong. I had junior year Spanish with Tim and he started sitting by me and inserting himself into all my conversations. He commented on anything I said to my friends, suggested the whole gang hang out at his house, and just generally made a nuisance of himself. He would follow me down the hall, asking me to help him plan things for his Boy Scout troop. His aunt lived in the same neighborhood as my best friend, so he would sometimes tell me the next day when he saw me driving to her house. Even would tell me what I was singing along to on the radio. Eventually, I pulled him aside and told him, as gently as I could, look, I'm sure you're a decent person, but I really don't like you, and I need you to leave me alone. Literally nothing changed, so I just pretended he didn't exist from there on out. By senior year, I was dating another kid in our Spanish class. You would think this would put Tim off. You'd be wrong. Boyfriend would sit on one side of me, Tim would sit on the other. He eavesdropped on our conversations and tried to contribute. He tried to invite himself on dates. Mind you, I was still ignoring literally every word that came out of his mouth. Eventually, I lost my temper. I would tell him he was being annoying, that he needed to leave us alone, that no one wanted him in the conversation, etc. One day, as I'm packing up my books, Tim says, very quietly and earnestly laying side, could you stick around for a second? I need to talk to you. At this point, I was sure he was about to call me out for being mean to him, and I was pretty ashamed. My boyfriend stayed, and so I'm standing there, hand in hand with the guy I've been dating for months, when Tim says, I was wondering if you wanted to be my date to the homecoming dance. I was just sort of dumbfounded for a second, and then said to him, no, I'm going with my boyfriend, and held up our joined hands. Oh, right, that makes sense, he said. I figured he would stop. Nope. Continued interrupting our conversations and heavily hinting that he would like to be invited on our dates for the rest of the semester. What the frick, Tim? This probably goes way past embarrassing. Straight into something else. In high school, there was this guy who asked me out. I didn't like him at all. He was a big guy, and loud, and mean to people, like a redneck football player, into sports, and fairly good at it, so some people liked him. I didn't. I especially didn't like the way he bullied some people. I didn't like that he was twice my size. Seriously, I didn't want to be in a car alone with him. I said no. I figured it wasn't a big deal. He asked, I turned him down. No problem. He can't move on to the next girl. That didn't happen. Suddenly, I'm getting all this crap from people. Why don't you like Dan? He's a good guy. He only wants a date. Why don't you just go out with him? It got annoying. Like I should just take one for the team. Because he wants me. One day I'm standing in the gym. I forget what was going on. But there were a bunch of students just standing around. Probably waiting for something. Suddenly, someone grabs me from behind. Arm around my shoulder. But rough. Someone really big. Freaked me out a bit. And I try to get away. The guy tightens his grip. Now he's got his arm around my neck, almost like a chokehold. I'm really starting to struggle, but everyone else is just sorta standing there, looking at me and whoever has his arm around my throat. Then he whispers in my ear, I'll let you go when you say you'll go out with me. Number. Let me go. He starts laughing at me and choking me harder. Yes, you will. I'm not letting go until you say yes. By now, I'm struggling and trying to kick and claw him. Someone in the group finally notices that this isn't all fun and games. I hear a guy say, dude, let her go. That's not cool. I have no idea who said that because by this time I can't see anyone clearly. I'm just trying to breathe. Evidently he realizes this isn't going the way he planned. He lets go of me. I'm gasping for air. Thoroughly freaked out. I swing around and slap him hard across the face. And walk. Run. Away. The weirdest thing of all, I got crap the rest of the year because I was so mean to him when he only wanted to ask me out. What the actual frick? Frick those people that tried to make you feel bad. Sorry that happened to you. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.